Howdy y'all, Stock Warden here, back with another video. Today, we're going back over Archer Aviation. It's been about a month since we've covered this stock, and it has definitely had a little bit of ground that it has not really covered here lately. And I'll share some of the good news that's came in, some of the bad news that's also came in, and also kind of why this stock is kind of started flatlining a little bit, but is showing a slight bullish trend. So right now, the stock ended today at $9.25 a share. So we're going to back up a little bit and check some of these resistance lines. So as it stands right now, we are kind of peaking at what it seems to be on a resistance line right now, sitting at this 925 to about 910 to 925, I would say, is kind of roughly where you're looking at this resistance line here, because you had a couple of peaks here, you had a couple of bottoms here, and then you've also had multiple bottoms, multiple peaks where you can see that it kind of tried to hold on here, and then now it's kind of holding on again in the same area, just on the bottom side. So you have one line there, and then you have another secondary line that's going to be here, right here at the 819. So I would say this is going to be your mainframe support for where we're at right now, considering this goes all the way back into May. So to then bring it in to go for a possible breakthrough scenario, you're probably looking anywhere at this $10.43 a share to maybe $10.50 a share, because there's been a lot of peaks and valleys all over this area over the past couple of months, where we held a really strong trend in this area. So, but we did have a breakthrough that then ended up coming into a good strong resistance, considering we did have kind of a jump for a new bottom here where we were at back in April. So the stock has had a good high, and it's kind of drawn back pretty hard, especially with a lot of the news that's came in with the eVTOL systems, FAA issues, contracting issues, and just trying to get the air taxi control up and running to where they can have all the correct permits to actually put their product in actual market. So that's kind of been what's holding Archer Aviation up quite a bit, is that they're still in the production type phase where they're trying to push everything ahead, and everything is looking good that it's going to be going forward. So Archer Aviation's doing a really good job so far with a lot of their business models and how they're running their company as well. So, the price levels that have been pushing for the resistance, they've been converting into good supports. So that's where I believe it's more than likely going to be a breakthrough, either sometime tomorrow or going into next week, with some of the great things that have came in over the past couple of days. So the Trump administration launched the flying taxi program, which is a pilot program to establish electric flying taxis as a variable transportation option, which it has been completely unveiled by the President Trump administration. So the FAA announced this past Friday, that it would administer the pilot program officially, the Electrical Takeoff and Landing Integration Pilot Program, which will perform public and private partnerships between local governments and the private sector companies to be able to develop new frameworks and regulations for enabling more safe operations of these vehicles. Because we're more or less talking about, flying cars type deal, because given it's not necessarily a flying car, but it is a flying taxi, where there is going to be a somewhat mass number of these things in the air. So they're going to have to figure out different ways and different channels to be able to make highway lanes in the sky, which technically at this point in time, I have no unearthly idea how they're going to be able to accomplish that. But I'm sure with a lot of the AI stuff, radar, traffic control, and different things like that, they'll be able to cover more areas of the sky and keep all of these separate planes separate. So then we don't have another issue like what happened a couple of months ago when a helicopter crashed into a commercial airliner. So that would be absolutely devastating and worst case scenario for any of these eVTOL programs. So, but that's the reason why they're doing all of this for a public-private partnership and bringing most of everything into the local governments to be able to keep working out the bugs and the kinks that comes into a market that nobody is really into at this point in time. It's still a very new concept to the world. So, but it is definitely one that once they get it all together, it is going to be the program to be on. So, and all these announcements that have came out, they made an executive order back in June for unleashing drone dominance, which Archer Aviation has been able to kind of capitalize on a little bit because they started getting a look hard from the government to be able to say, hey, you could be able to take off and land and leave and get up to speed to where you could transfer personnel and products and packages and a whole slew of things to the battlefield to be able to help our troops wherever they may need to be. So that's something that's going to come out really big for the United States Department of Defense. Also, I believe it was specifically the Army that was targeting Archer Aviation mainly for their eVTOL systems. So, and right now they're trying to make sure that they can accelerate the safe commercialization of this technology. And they're talking about taking these eVTOL taxis and turning them into drones to be a fully integrated UAS system for the national airspace system. So then, a single pilot would be able to cover, you know, a whole line of these eVTOL systems and aircrafts to be able to even remotely pilot more than one at some areas because they're talking about using different AI forms in these pilots to be able to help continue the strain of just bringing one pilot to control more than just a single pilot actually being in the cockpit. So, but this is all also stemming where you're looking at, Trump's pushing for this, the government's searching for all of this. Archer Aviation is doing really good as far as their business model is concerned, but you do have their major rival, Joby, where they are also joining into this public-private pilot program. So both of these companies are 100% focused, laser focused even, and they are having a little bit of, I would call it friendly competition because they're both aiming for the exact same operation. So their air taxis, so far, yes, Joby stock is higher, but if you look at their business markups, where you look at their market capitalizations, you look at their volumes, you look at how much debt to income ratio that they have where their stock is, then their stock price seems to be a little overpriced in my personal opinion looking at their margins. So, but Archer Aviation, honestly, I think Joby should be about where Archer Aviation is. Now, don't get me wrong, leave both of their price targets at $13 to $15 a share because that is exactly where it should go once they start actually implementing these programs and actually get them off the ground with the FAA in tow. So it's still definitely a very relevant stock to get into. I mean, either of them, Archer or Joby. I do plan on doing a little bit deeper of a dive on Joby since I am mentioning them in this video. So then we can have a little bit more of an understanding of where they're at, where they're going, and how they're going about their aviation eVTOL systems versus Archer, because these two companies are both based out of California and they are both fighting for the same position. So, with that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and this is the Stock Warden riding off. See y'all come back now, you hear?